Today, I'm going to talk about the top 3 mistakes that I see in watercolor painting. If even one of these is something that you see that you can change, it's going to make a big difference in your painting. All right, let's take a look. Number 1 is poor brushwork. You might not think brushwork is that important, but brushwork is how we express ourselves in the painting. Here are some of the big mistakes that I see in brushwork. The first one is too many brush strokes. I see this often in beginners. They have a favorite brush and it's usually a pretty small brush, and they want to use this brush throughout the entire painting. And the painting feels cluttered and really labored over. We see really small marks in the foreground, the middle ground, and the background. Don't use the same brush throughout the painting. You only really need 3. Large mop brush, a medium round brush, and then something a little smaller that has a point. Another thing that I see is using the same brush mark over and over and over again. So one good thing to do is get a brush and just play around with different types of mark making. Push the brush around, use the side of the brush. There are so many different marks that you can make even with one brush. Another thing that you'll see in brushwork is just no energy. Our brush marks can express a lot. You can see the energy that you're trying to portray. You can create atmosphere in your painting. And there's something very loose and free that can happen in your brush marks. But if you're holding your brush right up to the point, making that same small repetitive mark, you're not going to feel any of that energy. And your painting is going to look very labored over and very tight. So good, confident brush strokes. That's what we want to use in our painting. We want to get away from those small, repetitive little dabs. This issue with brushwork also leads to overworking your painting. And that is number 2 on my list. Overworking your watercolor. It's really easy to do. And this happens when we don't achieve the right value, the right strength of paint, when we continue to have to go over an area several times to get that area of the painting strong enough. That is when we start to overwork our painting. And watercolor just doesn't look good when it's applied in that way. We want to keep things as fresh and as spontaneous as we can. One of the hallmarks of overworking your painting is texture all over your painting. Using the same edge, using the same sharp edge in the foreground, the middle ground, and the background of your scene. Not only does it feel overworked, you lose your feeling of the depth in your scene because edge is such an important tool in creating depth. So typically in your painting, the further back that you go in the background, you want to have less contrast and less hard edges. Because those hard edges, the texture and the contrast, bring an area forward. And so if you don't have that difference, it's going to lack depth and it's going to look overworked. The other thing you'll see in an overworked painting is no clear area of emphasis. You want the painting to have a hierarchy. Everything needs to work cohesively. When you give every area of your painting the same amount of importance, you actually end up emphasizing nothing. And that's when your painting is overworked and it lacks focus. When you take on a scene, think about what is the simple statement of the scene? What is the main point of the scene? And really hone in on that and save your most saturation, your most contrast, your most focus for that area of the painting. And everything else in your scene should relate to that focal area. Number 3 on my list is impatience. We are impatient painters. This works at a small scale and a big scale. We want the painting to look like something right away. And so then, because that is the case, we too often jump ahead of very important steps in our painting process. I've talked about this before, the 3-step system in your painting. You want to work on your lights, your midtones, and your darks. If you need to just be thinking about your lighter values of your scene in order to set up the other stages, you get a little too impatient and you jump into your midtones. Then you're going to have a very disjointed, unorganized painting. The value structure will be off because of your impatience. So you have to remember what the plan is. Don't jump ahead. Stick to your game plan. And not only does this apply to individual paintings, but it definitely applies to our learning overall. We want to know how to do something right away. And if we struggle, then we feel like maybe this isn't for us. and it's easy to get ahead of ourselves and get frustrated. But we have to remember that every painting that you do is an investment. It's an investment in you as a painter. And so all of these paintings are little steps forward to where you know that you want to be. So if you can have a little more patience in each individual painting and trust the process, have a little more patience in your overall learning and understand that each painting is one little step, one little investment, then we will stay on track, and I think you'll be happier with the results. So if you are ready to take that next step forward as a painter, I have a free video lesson just for you. The 7 secrets of fresh and powerful painting. Now in this video lesson, I talk about how to plan your painting, how to mindfully paint your scene, and how to put your brush down before you overwork your painting. Now, when you sign up for this video lesson, I send you 2 things. I send you my pre-painting checklist, and this is something that you can look at before every painting to ensure that you're thinking through the right things as you get started. Now, in addition to that, I send you my watercolor supplies guide. So many people have questions about the paper that I use, the pigments that I use, the brushes that I use. I outline all of this in my watercolor supplies guide. So it's easy to get started. All you have to do is click on this link here and watch my free lesson, The 7 Secrets of Fresh and Powerful Painting. I'll see you there.